So this is one of the most historic spots in all of Atlanta. The 4 marker straight ahead there, on the corner of Battery Place and Dekalb Avenue. I'm actually on the pedestrian bridge that crosses Dekalb Avenue going into the Inman Park MARTA station. But those 4 markers tell the story of what happened here. And as I said, this is probably the most historic, well, there's a lot, but if you had to pick one, what actually happened here was really the climax of the Battle of Atlanta. And this was General Manigault's from the Confederate armies attack on the Degress Battery. That's what that's talking about there. The Widow Pope house was just right over here to the left, and about a block that way. Let's see if I can see it. If you look in the distance, you'll see another street right there. That's where that person's walking. That's Degress Avenue. And that's where the Degress Battery was, which was a federal battery with 4 cannons. The Confederates made a sort of a final attack on that line and penetrated it briefly for about 20 minutes. And then General Logan, who had taken over for General McPherson after he had died, launched a counterattack and retook that battery. That was about as close as the Confederates came that day to breaking the Yankee positions. This over here is the Inman Park MARTA station. And on the other part of this, let me actually walk you over here, is what was called back then the railroad cut. One of those 4 markers right down there, in fact the one on the far left, talks about the railroad cut. The railroad cut, by the way, this Dekalb Avenue was called the Dekalb Wagon Road back then. So this was a wagon trail that went to to Decatur from Atlanta. Okay, so that's looking west toward Atlanta. Let me take you across the bridge over here, and you'll see where the railroad cut was. Again, this is extremely historic ground. This was the scene that is depicted in the Cyclorama painting. This was one of them. The railroad cut is actually in. Unfortunately, there's a grate right here. This is Hulsey Yard. Okay, you see the 3 tracks right there. I'm on the south side of the MARTA station now. To my right over here is Reynoldstown. Okay, that rail corridor right there was the Georgia Railroad. Now it's a CSX multimodal yard. But during the Civil War, that was called the Georgia Railroad, and it was a single track that came in from Decatur. That was a supply line into Atlanta, one of the 4 supply lines that the Yankees were trying to sever and destroy so that the Confederates could not get supplies. The supplies that came in this way came in from the east, from Decatur, actually originally from Norfolk, up in the Virginia area. They would send supplies down to Augusta, and then across to Decatur, and then into Atlanta on this line right here. This was called the Georgia Railroad. And back in the Civil War, and what you see in the painting on the Cyclorama, what you see right in front of me here was what they call the railroad cut. And it was literally a sort of a ditch with that single rail that was cut out of the hills that were through here. And again, there's a really good picture of it in the Cyclorama. But this is what took place here at around 4:30 in the afternoon on July 22nd of 1864. Manigault and some other divisions from the Confederates attacked this area. They came up through here and through the railroad cut, and as I said, successfully blew out the center, I believe it was the center of the Degress Battery, and forced them back into the side. But again, Logan was called in and did a counterattack that retook that battery. So very, very historic ground right here in Reynoldstown.